everybody. We're Luke and Jenny Kadenko. We live in Aurora, Colorado, and we wanted to share our story with you.
Hi, everyone.
So in 2006, Luke and I got married, and in 2008, we bought our first house in New York. Right after that, a couple years later, we moved to Colorado.
14, so that would have been about 6 years later.
6 years later. And we wanted to keep our house, so we rented it out initially to friends and later just through a regular rental, and kind of had an up and down experience with that over the next 6 years, but mostly positive. The other part that you need to know about us is that since our kids were born, starting in 2011, we started supporting a company called World Vision. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we have 5 kids now, and so for each of our kids, we have asked World Vision to find us a kid that matches gender and birthday, and so that they have some connection to this idea that there's other kids out there just like them, the same age, the same gender, that live somewhere else in the world that don't have the advantages we have in our life. And so we've sponsored through World Vision one of these kids that matches our kids, and we pray for them every night. We talk about what is going on, and we get reports, and we send letters to them, and it keeps our kids connected that way with them.
Yeah, and then a couple years ago we learned that in addition to some of the smaller projects that World Vision does, they also drill deep wells across the world, specifically in Africa, and I think parts of Asia as well.
Yeah, pretty much anywhere where they don't have access to clean water reliably,
right.
In most villages.
Right, and so right away we were like, oh, we want to do that. And when we got our next tax return, we actually looked into going ahead and donating some of that portion of the tax return towards building one of these deep wells.
We actually had the money all set aside, and we contacted World Vision, and we asked about, hey, we wanna build a deep well,
and every single door was shut. They told us they didn't need any more wells. Not exactly that, but basically we just took it as a closed door, and God showed us a different way to use that money that year. So it was something we let go.
But I don't know that we let go of the feeling of, hey,
the desire.
We want clean water. We want other people to have clean water. It's a really big issue for us to have that ability, and so that kind of stayed, even though that door itself was closed. We always had that, and we've done a lot of I'll say small water projects through World Vision, because that's something that matters a lot to us.
Yep. Then fast forward a couple years, in January of 2020, our then current renters started falling behind on their rent, and we had been through this process a couple times before and knew that once that happened, we were going to have to start an eviction process. So in February of 2020, we started the eviction process with the current tenants.
But in New York State, it takes a while,
right.
and then in March of 2020, something happened. I can't remember what. But
yes, there was a pandemic that shut everything down, including the court system. And then, of course, most of you probably know that there was also an eviction moratorium, and that prohibited us from evicting our tenants that had not paid for a couple of months at that point.
So over the course of the next 19 months, is it? Over the course of the next 19 months, our tenants fell further and further and further and further behind. They had, frankly, no intention of paying us because they had no need to, because they could live there while we paid for the taxes, which in New York State are very high. We paid for the water, we paid for the garbage and mortgage, and I forget what else, insurance, and so we had these expenses, and they meanwhile paid us $700 over the course of
in those 19 months they scraped together a total of $700. So throughout those 19 months we prayed, obviously. We prayed for grace. God granted grace and patience and endurance. It was just a really frustrating situation to be stuck in and feel like we had no recourses and just nothing could be done. We were just stuck paying for these people's lives, and obviously it was really frustrating.
And the conversation we kept having is, honestly, and we'll talk about this in a minute, God was providing. We didn't have the financial need. It was the injustice of it. It was the fact that they were taking advantage of us, and that the government, whose job it is to enforce laws and rules, was helping them take advantage of us. And that we just felt like there was such an injustice there, more than the financial need.
Yep, and we tried to use it, to encourage each other, like God's in control and He is taking care of us. We used it as a teaching opportunity for our kids and talking to them about, like, these are the kind of people that we want you to grow up to be, where you are responsible and you are, follow through on your commitments and stuff. But it was still a really frustrating experience. We shared with a lot of our friends, this is what we're going through. It's this really terrible experience. Please be praying for us. Pray for encouragement. Pray for support. Pray for the courts to open back up so that we can evict them, so we can move forward with just unloading that house. And I think that our friends were really awesome.
Yeah, our friends were super supportive. They were
super supported us.
They were as mad, if not sometimes more mad, than we were about the injustice. Because then we should feel, all of us should feel angry about injustice. God is angry about injustice.
Yep. Some of the other, I'll say, highlights of that time, we had 2 property managers quit on us because obviously they didn't want to deal with the frustration. Our tenants were forever promising, oh yeah, I'll have money for you on Friday, and Friday never came. We couldn't do anything legally. We had talked to lawyers. We had looked into, was there any way that we could address the situation, and there wasn't.
The town of Greece, where the house is located, actually came after me and sent me a letter saying that if I didn't take care of the garbage that the tenants had accumulated, that they would issue a warrant for my arrest. I called up the town like, you don't understand. I can't do anything. I have no stick here to encourage them to do anything. And luckily, we were able to get the tenants, after a lot of back and forth, to actually clean up enough of the mess that the town got off of my case about it, which was...
Yeah, and our old neighbors were contacting us, like the tenants are doing drugs, and there's people coming in and out of the house constantly, and
kicking doors down, breaking windows.
Yeah, just really terrible situation.
Tenants, or rather neighbors, reaching out to me, finding me on LinkedIn, like, hey, you have to do something about this. Like, yeah, I would love to do something about this, but I have no opportunity to do anything about this.
Yeah, and so obviously that was all a stress. The stressor that we didn't have during that time was that it wasn't a financial strain. And you want to talk a little bit about the...
Yeah, so I had made an investment. I mean, we've always been making investments, but there was a specific investment that, frankly, the investment partner that I had worked with made a mistake early on. And so he owed me a lot of money, and he agreed to pay me back not only the money that he owed me, but with a very generous interest rate, which ended up being essentially triple what we needed for this. So it ended up being a lot more money from that investment than we had anticipated, and really took care of that and any other financial stresses we might have had at that time. Really kind of just eliminated them, which was just awesome. And that's what we kept telling people. We don't really have the financial stress here. It's not about the money, it's about the injustice. And God is providing, and really, that wasn't the only one. That was the biggest one, but that wasn't the only miraculous way that God provided for us during that time. And it was so awesome to see God providing through those financial hardships. I don't even know if they were hardships, but those financial stressors. What could have been a hardship. God providing above and beyond really what we needed to really, I think, just kind of say to us, I've got you. I've got this. This is all taken care of. Even though it is unjust, I'm not going to let you suffer at the hands of this injustice.
Yeah, and so then in the spring of 2021, so this year, our unpaying tenant, told us that they were pursuing a rental assistance program that would help them out by paying the rent, so that they could stay in the house and hopefully get caught up on some of the back rent that they owed. At that point, the tenants owed us about $18,000, maybe a little bit over that.
It was $18,800.
Yep, and so we started hearing about that. A couple more months went by. Nothing happened. Finally, I think it was in May, we got a call from someone from this rental assistance program in New York, and they said, hey, we're trying to help out your tenant, and can you give us some numbers of what they owe? They're not really sure what the numbers are. They owed like 3 times what they thought they owed. So we provided all of the information and all the documentation of this is where the tenants, how much back rent they owe, and what they need to be able to be current and not get evicted once the courts reopen.
And I tried to get some information from this rental assistance program, like, okay, is this a monthly thing? Is this a one-time thing? And they, after the initial, they called me, they sent me an email. I need you to fill out this if you want any assistance. And so I filled it out, and I called them, I emailed them. I did one other thing. I think I might have sent them a physical letter. I don't even remember. But like, okay, what is the plan? And they no contact back from the rental assistance.
Yeah, they agency. Completely ghosted us. And so we kind of let that hope go. Like, okay, we might get this money. That would be great. If not, we'll just keep trucking along, trusting God that He's taking care of us, because He has so far, with extra. And
And then a while later, now the tenant is continuing not to pay, and that number is continuing to grow. But a while later, we just get a check with no explanation, literally just a check, no letter.
well, first,
Oh, there's a first.
so in the in-between, Luke says one day,
Oh, right.
if we get this check, I feel like we should give away the money. And I was like, no, absolutely not. We have been paying this stupid house for months and months and dealing with these tenants and dealing with the headache. And yes, God is taking care of us, but I have plans for this money. I have things I want to do. And we kind of went back and forth about it. And he was like, well, just pray about it. And I was like, fine, I'll pray about it.
And I don't know that we argued about
No.
it. It was just, I mentioned it and I said, pray about it. And I just really felt strongly that God had provided so much. God had provided so above and beyond what we needed, that to then take whatever money we got and, like, oh, this is for us, felt like, I don't know if double dipping is the right word, but like God had already provided for our needs. So then we obviously didn't need this money. So then what could we do to further the kingdom of God?
Yeah. And so I, kept thinking about it and praying about it. And I specifically was thinking of the times that we had given sacrificially before, in the years that we've been married, and how God has always come through and always blessed us. And this time, he really did it up front. He took care of us, and there was never any strain or problem or anything like that we were concerned, for taking care of our kids or paying our own bills or anything like that. So I kind of settled in my head, like, okay, if this, theoretical check ever does show up, then yeah, we'll give it away.
And then, like I said, we got a letter, not a letter, we got a check in the mail out of the blue for $16,800, which
$16,800,
which was
crazy.
A huge amount of the back. It wasn't everything that they owed us, but it was a huge amount of the back order, and that was very exciting. And I'm not gonna lie, there's a certain aspect of, oh, now I have the money, do we still want to give it away? I'm not sure if I'm on board anymore. But you do have that, there's a part of you that has that question of like, oh, it's easier to give away theoretical money than real money.
Yeah, and the check just showed up in the mail, no explanation, no letter, no nothing. It had a letterhead on it, but I still think God just sent that check, that the rental assistance program didn't even know they were sending it. And yeah, so it came in the mail. We told everybody. We deposited it, made sure it cleared. Told everybody.
Right. We did, actually.
Yeah.
We did.
Once it cleared, like, hey, look at what God did. Look at this miracle that he worked on our behalf, that he took. Not only has he taken care of us up to this point, but now he's reimbursed us for all this money that we were owed, that, by justice and by law, we were supposed to be getting this money that had been taken away from us. And so we just kind of, like, spammed everyone we knew, like everyone that's been praying for us, everyone, let everybody know that God really, really took care of us. And then we had agreed to give it away. So
we contacted World Vision, and this time we got a very...
Well, we remembered.
Oh,
we wanted to build that well 4 years ago. And turns out that was the cost of the well.
Yeah. And so we contacted World Vision. This time we got a green light. This time was like, yes, that's so exciting. Send us the money. And we did. And they're now in contact with us and letting us know where it's going and everything. And we actually just heard they've picked a site. It takes a while. Frankly, I don't know what percentage of the well digging money goes to bribing local officials just to be able to dig a well, but whatever. They were able to get through the legal paperwork, and they've got a site picked, and the well is going to serve 300 people, and that's
somewhere in Ghana.
Yeah, and that's
Ghana,
just such
Africa.
an exciting thing to be a part of. Like we had water issues a couple weeks ago and last week, and it was over 24 hours we were without water, right? And that was, in America, that was the biggest stressor ever. Like, oh, we can't flush the toilets, we can't take showers. We had to run to Walmart, which we can do, and pick up jugs of water. We didn't have to go to a well 6 miles away and carry jugs of water. You could just go to Walmart and pick up water, but it was still such a stressor. And just to be able to bring that to other people that don't have that right now, that are drinking dirty water or are going way too far, well, for dirty water still.
Yeah, and so these wells, these deep wells that World Vision drills, they can serve up to 300 people in the surrounding area. And so we sat our kids down and we told them, God sent us this money. We don't need the money. We're going to give it away. We're going to build a well. and it's going to serve 300 people. And then, we're kind of looking at our kids and they have no concept of how many,
people
300 people are. So we started making a list of all the people that they knew and everyone they can think of, family and friends and neighbors and people we've met on our travels and friends that we used to hang out with at our old house and everyone we could think of. And they came up with 187 people. And so then we told them, it's close to almost double that again, that all of those people will be able to have clean water, to kind of help put it in perspective for
Give them
to
some
understand
context. Yeah.
what a big deal this was. This is going to be, and we've kind of all throughout our marriage, I think, taken the approach of, we've given and we believe in generosity and we are always looking for ways that we can pass on the blessing that God has given us to others, but we've never talked about it as vocally as we've done
because this is
time.
America, and we don't talk about money. Money's a taboo topic. Like, it's, let's not bring that up. That's sensitive. Whether it's good or bad, we don't like talking about money in America.
And what I hope that you can hear through this is that it's not about something that we did, that God took care of us all along the way, that God then sent us that check, and then God gave us the privilege and ability to be able to pass that money on, to do something else with it.
This isn't a story of what great things the Kadenkos have done. This is a story of what great things God has done and that he allowed us to be a part of it.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and I think the thing that we did was we were able to step out in faith and give that money away. And it's not like we didn't need that money. I mean, we needed it. We wanted to give it away. But it's not like we needed it to pay our bills or anything like that. We have 5 kids. We can always find something to spend money on. But God supplied all of our needs and took care of us over and above what we needed. And we have experienced, and we want you to know that we have a really, really, really big and awesome God. And he still works miracles, and we can tell so many different stories of all the miracles that he's done for us today in our modern life here in America. That this isn't something that only happened in Bible times, and it isn't something that only happens overseas in third world countries, that it happens here for each one of us. And so we just wanted to encourage you.
Yeah, and so just like I said, this is a story of what God does, and it's been so exciting for us to have our place in that, to find where God has, as we read in Bible stories and as we read in stories of modern times, where God has used people and how awesome it is that he wants to use us, that he doesn't just do it unilaterally and we just kind of get to sit back and watch, but that he wants to bring us into that process. He wants to bring us into that process through prayer. He wants to bring us into that process through reaching out to a friend. He wants to bring us into that process by giving us a big check that we then sign over to somebody else, that we can build a well in Ghana. And the story here, the takeaway isn't like, wow, those people are so impressive, because we're not. The takeaway is, wow, their God is so impressive.
Yeah, and to just encourage you to ask, look at yourself and examine yourself and say, what is God moving me to do? What is he tapping on your shoulder to say, hey, I want you to do this thing? That's going to take some faith and maybe seem a little ridiculous, but is going to bring glory to the name of Jesus. And that, above all else, is what we hope you can do alongside of us, because that's why we're here, is to bring glory to Jesus.
That's what it's all about, right? That is what the Christian life is about. He gave his life for us, that we could continue his work, that we could continue his ministry, that we could continue his purpose on earth. Mm-hmm. And so what does it mean to be a Christian? It just means that we've said, hey, thanks for that. I'm going to do what I can to continue what you started. And he said greater things. He said that we would do greater things than him. And I think most of that is because of our reach, because he was God in the flesh, though he was, there was one of them limited in the flesh, and he had to leave so that he could impart the gift of his life and the gift of his spirit onto us, that we would be millions and billions of people around the world representing him and representing his mission.
Yeah, so that's our story, and thanks for watching, and have a great day.